Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. Good afternoon, good evening. Doesn't matter what time it is, just know today is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because God is good, He's good all the time. Duh. I hope you read the title, but do not judge this entire video based solely on what you see on the title, because that's where a lot of us get confused, man. We get confounded because we don't seek the context, the full context. And so I'm just going to get into it, man. The Diddy thing, this whole ordeal with Diddy. This is about his third time getting his bond denied, and he is ordered to be held in pretrial detention. Now, despite how I feel, despite how you feel about what you believe, what I believe, Sean P. Diddy Combs, has committed. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes down to the whole Diddy ordeal, is that regardless of how I feel about him, you feel about him, what we believe him to have done, it's irrelevant when you look at the Constitution, right? When you look at these legal mandates that has been put into positions to provide us some insight on how we are to be treated as individuals or citizens or just people in general existing in the United States of America. I'm not going to harp on this for too long because I want to do more research into it. But vaguely, I had looked into it. I was looking at this video that my mom sent me about Diddy, right? And it's very, very contagious topic to get, to want to look at and listen to all the conversations around it. But the thing that stood out to me the most was this section of this video, and it listed this federal piece of legislation that they're using to decide why Sean P. Diddy Combs was held in pretrial detention and denied bail bond. The reason why I want to have this conversation is because I believe that Sean P. Diddy Combs did a lot of jacked up stuff. However, because the good Lord, Jesus Christ himself, allowed me to get educated on not just the United States legal system, but this is the legal system that literally governs a great portion of the world, at least the westernized countries, which as they continue to colonize, you know what I'm saying, it's becoming more and more and more structured like the United States of America, UK, Australia. They tend to look the same, although they're different countries. They're on different continents, etc. The motherfucking gist, the foundation, it's the same. And so in our constitutional law, there is this clause called due process. Now, no, we don't have a bunch of savvy people that's into this, the legal jargon. That's fine. That's why you got niggas like me, okay? I speak layman's. Due process is basically, it's this action that has been put into our proceedings, especially when it comes to legal proceedings, criminal and civil. But the focus here with Diddy is criminal. But we can't stem too far from civil because they coincide. As we see, Diddy, a lot of his criminal charges are stemming from civil suits. That's even mind-blowing to many people because they're like, what? They don't even, they don't mix. A lot of people demonize people for taking people to civil suit instead of pressing charges against them criminally, when they don't even realize that there is a difference. There is a difference in how the system functions in the civil matter and the criminal matter as it pertains to the standard of proof. The standard of proof for criminal accusations is high. Okay, it's so high that it makes it almost impossible to hold somebody criminally liable for an action that you believe that they did, or for a fact that they did, because it may have happened to you. But the way that the system is set up, because of due process, you have to go through all of these procedures. Literally have to fulfill all these protocols before you can establish someone's guilt in a criminal matter. However, in the civil realm, it don't work like that. The standard of proof is very, very, very little compared to criminal. Criminal requires probable cause to get you funneled through the criminal justice system, and it requires the prosecutor, your accuser, proving beyond a reasonable doubt that you did what they are accusing you of. So that means they exhaust every means possible to prove that you did what they are accusing you of to do, to where they leave no room for anyone to doubt that you may have not committed this crime. That is what beyond a reasonable doubt means, is that they don't want anybody to cast any doubt that this person did what they did. If doubt is presented, then the whole criminal case falls apart. It falls apart. So with that being said, this is why a lot of people go the civil route when citizens are killed by the police. This is why they go the civil route. They commence civil suits. This is why when children are sexually abused by educational staff, teachers, administrators, counselors, principals, all that stuff, this is why they go to the civil courts and they sue, because even though they know what that person did is criminally illegal, they do not have the means to prove. They do not have the means to prove through the law that this person did what they are accusing them of. So the law won't be able to hold them accountable when it comes to this criminal matter. However, civilly, like I said, the standard of proof is a lot lower. You literally just have to prove, the standard of proof is preponderance of evidence. So it basically means that, and this is how it's established, as long as you prove well over about 50% with your established evidence that the person did what you accused them of, you don't even have to prove like 100%, 60%, to 51%. You just have to prove slightly more than 50% with everything that you have laid out, your evidence, whether that includes, and a lot of times it includes circumstantial evidence. It's word of mouth, right? It's motherfreaking audio and video footage that lacks context, stuff like that. But it's circumstantial anyways. It's not something that is concrete that pins you there, but at least they're like, you know what, with all this stuff that this person accumulated, they documented and saved and presented to us, it's reasonable to believe that this person may have done what they are accusing them for. So let's provide them some compensation for their damages. And this is why people pursue the civil realm, because you're more likely to win in the civil realm, although it costs a lot of money. And see, that's the difference too, right? That's the difference too, is that when it comes to civil and criminal, they're established by two different they establish. So when it comes to criminal, the best way I could put it is that the criminal side, they depend on all this extra help to achieve their end goal, which is to convict you of whatever they're accusing you of, right? Because the criminal realm is linked to the government, it's constitutionally established. The government, if you are not able to provide yourself counsel, you know what I'm saying? If you're not able to initiate, the charge or the, you know what I'm saying, the persecution in a sense, you can go to the criminal realm, go to a prosecutor and tell them, hey, this crime had happened to me. You lay out whatever you have presented to them, and then that prosecutor decides whether or not they're like, you know what, I can work with this. You've established enough that I can utilize government resources to further look into this and make sure that I can get a conviction. So then in the criminal matter, the government resources are exhausted. In civil matter, there's no there's no government like help standard, right? That's why immigration, eviction, these things are civil, not criminal. Because if you were being evicted, if you were an immigrant and you are facing deportation and that was a criminal matter, literally by the establishment of the Constitution, they would, and when I say they, the courts would have to provide you a lawyer. They would then there's all these rights that becomes to, pull in place because of the establishment based on the Constitution. But when it comes to civil realm, there's not that many constitutional parameters that protects you. So this is why people who get evicted from their properties, people who are immigrants facing deportation, are pushed through the civil realm, because it's easier for you to be found guilty. It's easier for you to not succeed, and the result of the person who brought you to court wins, and they get exactly what they want, which is you either evicted or you deported, or in the sense of a monetary exchange, the person that took the person to court, the plaintiff and all this other stuff, the plaintiff wins, the defendant doesn't. That's how it is established. And so the reason why I bring this up, because like I said, I don't want to harp too long on here, because I'm going to actually make a YouTube video about this, and I'm going to disseminate this in further detail. But I just wanted to show y'all that there's this federal legislation that was applied to Diddy's matter that I think it's imperative that people pay attention to, because although you may be like, yeah, Diddy's a motherfucking, he's a creep, he's a freak, he's a criminal, he's a pedophile, he's a rapist, he's a this, that, and the third, despite how you believe, or feel about him, is that the same way that they treat him will be the same way that they treat you. And I know it's hard to see some resemblance when you're looking at it and you're like, man, I'm a regular person. Maybe you work a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you work no job. Maybe you're a full-time student, a full-time mother, what have you, parent, what have you. And you compare it and it's like, Diddy's rich. This dude is established. He has this, he has that. But at the end of the day, we are human. And even these rich people, this is why I tell people, don't get into this, don't fall into the deceit, right? Don't fall into this, like, this pulling of lionizing celebrities and people that you perceive to have money and status and achieved accolades and accomplishments. I mean, because at the end of the day, we are all human, right? The market was to crash right now. If the banks was to shut down access, even the most richest billionaire in the United States will be living equivalent to the poorest person in the United States, because why? They don't have access to their money. When you are thrown into the criminal justice system and you are stripped from everything, because many of us that have been arrested, many of us that have been convicted and sat up in people's jails and prisons, we know how it feels to be stripped from life to the point where your kinfolk don't even know you sitting in there. Your children, your lover. Nobody knows that you literally been kidnapped by the government. And that's the scary part about the police force, is that they literally could pick you up off of anywhere, deny you phone calls, and now you sit incarcerated, imprisoned, and not incapable of even telling somebody, hey, this is what happened to me. And now niggas just going in life thinking one thing with you the whole time you are imprisoned, right? But this is the thing that reduces us all to the fact that we are all the same. Even these niggas with money, status, and all this other stuff, they're nothing. They're nothing at the core, because at the end of the day, you can't take your riches, your house, your property, your assets, your accomplishments, your degrees. You can't take none of that garbage with you. When you get incarcerated, look at Diddy. This nigga living just like the average citizen that is thrown in the criminal justice system. So this is why I tell people, pay attention to this. Not necessarily, I mean, if you don't want to look at it from an altruistic standpoint where you're like, I love and care about other people, look at it from a you perspective. Get on your selfish, I guess, okay? And realize, if you permit it to happen to him, you permit it to happen to you. Kanye West said it not too long ago. I feel like maybe about a year ago. But he said, he was telling them what the people in powers that, ran the Adidas companies and all this other stuff that was over his music and all this stuff, right? He was telling us, you got these Jewish people, this, that, and the third, they doing this, that, and the third. And then he said, if they doing it to me and I'm a billionaire, what do you think they're going to do to you who ain't even got 2 pennies to rub together? You see what I'm saying? And there is legitimacy into what he said. There is factuality in what he said. I was even telling people, like, although you may, it is feeding your flesh to see these wealthy people be punished. Because the Bible tells us, if you are of Jesus, you are of Christ, the Bible tells us, do not motherfucking rejoice when the wicked are punished. We're not supposed to celebrate. We're not. When Jesus was talking to Abraham and he was talking about him destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, Jesus was straight up like, yo, we about to tear this place up. Okay. Me, the Father, and the Spirit. We about to tear him up. And Abraham, although he know God knows everything, he know God already done looked in Sodom and Gomorrah and didn't see not one righteous person, not one good person. He still interceded on their behalf. And he said, if there's 50, will you kill all of them? Or would you at least save the 50? Jesus told him, he said, bro, I'll save them. But there ain't none. He said, what if there's 40? And he went all the way down to 5. And Jesus said, from 50 all the way down to about 5. He said, if there is at least 5 righteous people in there, I will save them. But there ain't none. And he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So the whole point of me saying that is, as a Christian, we're not supposed to rejoice when the wicked is being punished. The Bible tells us that the wealth of the wicked cannot save them from his wrath. This is why people need to stop sleeping on God, man, y'all. Anyways, this is why I'm such an advocate to voice out. Open your eyes. See what is happening to Diddy. See what is happening to Kanye. Because I continue to tell people, y'all lie. Literally, humans are lionized, worshiping humans because of wealth, establishment, status, things that they perceive, that they wish that they had. They want to live vicariously through people, technically doing exactly what the Bible says not to do, which is covet, but they're doing just that. And then mother freaking want to act like these people cannot ever be reduced to the same status that they are in. Yes, it has happened. I continue to say, like, y'all, please don't believe what you see on TV. Because everything you see is not what it seems. My mom been telling us since we were little that the world is a stage. The Bible even says that the world is just smokes and mirrors. What you see ain't real. It's not, because the Bible tells us that we are to walk by faith, not by sight. Because what we perceive is not really what is interpreted. You literally have people thinking that people are well put together. Look at all the people who think that Snoop Dogg is this family man and he's all well put together and he ain't involved in no wild stuff because this nigga done appeared with Martha Stewart. He he's palatable to white people. So they assume this nigga ain't doing no wild stuff. The same thing with Sean P. Diddy Combs. Look how many times this dude has reproduced his image. He tried to fix it. This is what these raggedy people do. I keep telling people, philanthropists ain't nothing but a bunch of heinous, egregious criminals trying to trick you and deceive you into believing that they care about people and they doing things out here because they love the people. It's all a publicity stunt. And this is why the Bible tells us to not walk by your sight, but walk by faith. Because we literally look at a nigga that look clean, they look rich, and we perceive them to be wealthy. We perceive them to be so smart and established. I mean, a person could talk well, and you'll be like, yup, that nigga educated. And the person to hear me talk and be like, nope, ain't not one bit of wisdom in her. You see what I'm saying? Because they look on the outside. I've been judged as the uneducated welfare queen, black woman. I mean, the stuff that I have been accused of and motherfucking berated as, it's ridiculous. I know it ain't me, but it's because people look on the outside and want to create this idea of who they think I am based on what they perceived, what they interpreted as they perceived me. But the truth is that what you see isn't what it's interpreted. And so I want to just tell y'all again to make sure y'all pay attention, because what's happening to Diddy, baby, it's been happening to the rest of us. And we don't realize that when they bring, and when I say they, I'm talking about the people that is in charge of media, the people, because these are the same people that are over the entertainment industry. These are the same people that are running our politicians. These are the same people that cause themselves business leaders with business acumen. I mean, they're all connected. All these systems are connected. Education, the motherfucking social services, the criminal system, they're all connected. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we will be better off. Like the Bible says, curses any man who put his trust in man. Man is jacked up because why a lot of these humans out here are allowing Satan to run roughshod through their bodies, man. Okay? A lot of these people have given their souls to Satan. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers of darkness and principalities, man. We fighting unclean. Okay? If you with Jesus, you know exactly what's happening. But I encourage you to realize the rich is beholden to the richer. Okay? The rich is beholden to the richer. Diddy is going through what he's going through because someone who he is beholden to, the richer, that individual or individuals want access to what he has so they can maintain power over the other smaller rich people. They more money than us, more established in assets than us, but they smaller than that generational wealth. For the love of money is the root of all evil, 1 Timothy 6:10. I'm telling y'all, it's some wild stuff happening. And why would these people keep voting to get, or to keep ruling to have his bond denied and have him held on pretrial detention? Now, I want to end here because, like I said, I'm going to go in more depth with a full video on this. We had the 20-minute mark already, but I want to do further research. But it's the 18 U.S. Code 3142, and it's the release or detention of a defendant pending pretrial, or excuse me, 18 U.S. Code 3142. Release or detention of a defendant pending trial. And so this basically is the guidelines that judicial, officers, judges, magistrates, this is what they base their discretion, their decision making off of. And this is what is established when you can release someone who is in detention or pending detention, or when you can hold someone pending their trial. And so in here, there's all types of, it's like release conditions. There's the temporary detention to permit revocation of conditional release, deportation or exclusion. There's so many things in here. But the part that stood out to me the most was this section. Give me a second, because I was looking at it. But it said, so the first section of it, section A, it says, in general, upon the appearance before a judicial officer of a person charged with an offense, so that's a offense, just one, the judicial officer shall issue an order that pending trial, the person be either 1, released on personal recognizance, so R&R, released on recognizance, or upon execution of an unsecured appearance bond, so if they're given the bond, under subsection B of this section. Then there's 2, released on a condition or combination of conditions under subsection C of this section. Then there's number 3, temporarily detained to permit revocation of conditional release, deportation, or exclusion under subsection of this section. So 3 will mostly apply to people that's on parole, probation, people pending deportation, stuff like that. But this is the one that stood out the most to me, because this is the one that I believe is being applied to Sean P. Diddy Combs, where number 4, it says he's detained under subsection E of this section. And so when we scroll down to subsection E of this section, it says detention, and it lays down these guidelines. These, it's 3 of them. There's 3 subsections under this subsection that's under detention. And it says basically, after a hearing, the judicial officer find that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the person. So that basically means that they don't believe with any of the stuff that was listed prior to. So that was number 1, number 2, number 3, because we on number 4. This is where it's ruling them to be detained pending their trial. And it says you can decide that a person be held or detained pending their trial when they believe that no condition or a combination of those conditions, the things that was listed previously, which was released on their own recognizance. You see where this is going? So it's saying you can hold this person and allow them to sit, and wait their trial, as long as they don't believe that any of these conditions or a combination of these conditions will ensure that the person appears as required back to court. And if they believe that the safety of another person and the community would be jeopardized. So this is the section I believe Diddy is being held on. And when you look through it, it like I told you, there's 3 little sections underneath it. Or excuse me. Yeah, 3 sections that's underneath detention. And the one that I believe that is applying to him, because they even said that they believe that P. Diddy is a flight risk. They believe that he will tamper and mess with witnesses and all this other stuff, because they're saying that his history has established this intimidating guy, right? Where he will do anything to evade being held accountable, or at least being brought through trial. And so they're saying, and I believe the 3rd section is the section that applies to him, where it says, subject to rebuttal by the person, it shall be presumed that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of that person as required and the safety of the community if the judicial officer finds that there is probable cause to believe that the person committed. And then it says an offense for which a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years or more is prescribed in the Controlled Substance Act. And then it gives its listing 21 USC 801, the Controlled Substance Import and Export Act 21 USC 95. And then it goes on to list other offenses that they believe that they don't feel that any of the conditions or conditions combined will ensure that his appearance comes back to court, on top of the fact that they feel that he is a danger to society, to community. So they're basing this off of one of these 5 instances, which is the one I just told you, an offense for which a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years or more is prescribed. Now, looking at the offenses that he's charged with, none of them have a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years or more, or more. And then it even says under the Controlled Substance Act. So this includes drugs. Now, based on what we know with the establishment of the drugs, the substance, the ones that have harsher penalties are the drugs that are more accessible to the more impoverished groups, right? So the drugs that Diddy is perceived to have, or alleged to have had, purported to have had, these were drugs that are commonly viewed with white-collared, individuals. So the sentencing for them, the punishment for them aren't that harsh. So I don't believe that any of the charges that he has a maximum sentence of 10 years or more. He was charged with most things that is either, there's like the baby oil thing. There's this weird terminology that they used because they didn't necessarily say that he was involved in human trafficking, but they said that he was entangled with commercial sex workers. So they didn't even label them as prostitution, which prostitution by any state penal law is a criminal offense, even if it's something as minor as a violation or a misdemeanor or even a felony, depending on where you at. But it's not a violent crime, but it's still a crime that's listed in the penal law. But even people who were charged with prostitution and convicted of prostitution don't necessarily receive, a lot of, like, a very, very harsh sentencing unless there's a combination of offenses and charges. So that's why I'm saying, like, so I don't think that this applied to him, an offense for which the maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years or more is prescribed. And then it lists the Controlled Substance Act. I mean, we see Diddy had more access to rich people, white elitist drugs, right? Then the next one is an offense under Section 924C, 956A, and then when you click it, it gives the information. I don't think that applies either, though. Then it says an offense, and they don't say and or. So it's so vague that maybe they can look at this in combination, or maybe they can look at them as individual, pieces of legislation that could be utilized to harshly punish him. So because that's why I encourage y'all to look at it. Then the next one, it says an offense listed in Section 2332 BG 5B of Title 18. It says United States Code for which a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years or more is prescribed. And this just says an offense. So it has one offense that has these maximum imprisonment terms. So, like I said, the language is vague. So it could be used in combination. It could be used as a singular entity. But it's strange. And this is why I tell you, pay attention, because if it happens to him, it can happen to you. The next section is an offense under Chapter 77 of this title for which a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years or more is prescribed. 20 years or more. Nothing that Diddy has been allegedly charged with, or none of the things that Diddy has been alleged to have done, the things that he is charged with, has these maximum harsh sentences of 10 plus years. None of them. And then, but this is the one that I believe that they are holding him in pretrial detention, because none of this other stuff that they have him charged with, because this is why I say they want to hold him while they go on their fishing expedition. Right now, they don't have nothing to hold him. But because the focus is on minors is included. The last section of 3, when you go to the subsection E, which is detention, you go to number 3E, it says an offense involving a minor victim under section 1201, 1591, 2241, 2240, and then it lists all these other sections. But the fact that it says an offense involving a minor victim, this is what they are holding him in pretrial detention for. And I believe since they are holding him in pretrial detention for this, they are holding him using this so they can go on a fishing expedition, and they're going to await all these civil cases to come out, so that way they can use the information that is dug up by other people's finances. Because you got to remember, these people depend on government funds. The government ain't got the funds nor manpower to motherfreaking look into a case as vast as motherfreaking Diddy's. It's too large reaching. Like, it's international. It includes wealthy people. And because it includes wealthy people, this is another reason why I think it's moving funky and it's moving silently, is because of the fact that there's a lot of people alleged to be involved, and these are high-powered people. And if anyone speaks too soon and start talking, they risk incriminating themselves, and or they risk bringing the light on themselves because now they aren't able to work out a deal with the prosecutor for immunity. So as long as they're able to shut up, and because the prosecutors want Diddy, they don't want all of this bubbling over and everybody business getting out. They just want Diddy. So if they can maintain all the people that are involved, celebrities, politicians, local, bureaucrats, motherfucking businessmen, clergies, etc. If they could keep them all hushed long enough for them to get this fiction expedition, they got all these civil suits coming forward. They can use the findings from the civil suit. They can implement that into the criminal case. And then they can utilize these same people who have done heinous things right along with Diddy, how they alleged him to. Now they gain immunity because they get to snitch on all the stuff that Diddy did. And if anything comes out about them, which I'm pretty sure they're banking on Diddy not talking because Diddy has been labeled a psychopath. And because he's been labeled a psychopath, people assume that psychopaths don't think rationally, especially when it comes to gaining attention for things. They believe that Diddy will motherfreaking, if he gets on the stand, he will talk too much. And his team believes that he will hurt himself, especially with the alleged involvement of his attorneys in, with criminal matters as well. So the best option for them, they believe, is to keep him shush, even though he has the right to face his accusers. And he has the right to speak, And so it's interesting. But I do believe that this is why it's going the way it's going. It's to keep it on the hush so they can go on their fishing expedition, so that way the government could utilize the least amount of resources possible and funds possible to convict Diddy. At the same time, do quality control, try to keep as many people as possible from spilling over their criminal activities and involvement too, so that way they're not forced to, because think about it. If it gets out that one person did some funky junk, the next thing people are going to be pushing prosecutors to go after that person. If prosecutors choose not to go after them because of fear that it's going to spill over some more, it's going to look funky. And then if they do prosecute it, they run the risk of it spilling over some more, and more people getting involved, and more people getting involved, and more people. You see what I'm saying? You see where this is going? So this is why I tell y'all, pay attention to what's going on. Some funky stuff. There's a bunch of smokes and mirrors going around, and they're using the legislation because they expect us to be dumb, swamped with 9-to-5 jobs, families, and whatnot. So they expect you to not, basically for you to be too busy to look into what the government is doing. Some funky stuff involved, because I just looked at that federal code, and everything that was listed, it does not give them grounds to keep Diddy in pretrial detention, except that last clause, 3E of detention, where it says that he is charged with an offense that involves a minor that is a victim. So because he's charged with that, and they believe that with all the conditions that they listed, they don't believe any of the conditions in their singular form nor their combined form will ensure that he don't do some funky junk like intimidating and tampering with evidence and witnesses and evading, fleeing the country. And they can't ensure that he will return. So they was like, we're going to keep him because a lot of the stuff that's coming out about him involves a minor, which gives them grounds to hold him in pretrial detention, which gives them the opportunity to go on a fishing expedition as they build their case, because right now they ain't got one, okay? They're depending on these civil matters. So all of the money that was spent over there to get all that information, they can just, boop, 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 boop. Let me get them documents over here. They can subpoena documents and all types of stuff. Just basically bully, using the government, capabilities to bully and stiff arm people into giving them what they want. And next thing you know, it's over. They got the paperwork. They trying to convict him without muddying it as possible. I'm telling you, both sides is banking on Diddy's silence. I personally want Diddy to come forward and speak out, and I hope he do. I hope you do. I'm at the 38-minute mark. I went a lot longer than I intended, but trust me, I got a video coming on YouTube. God bless y'all. Peace. If you want people to think otherwise of you more positively, then give them more positive experiences.